What's the deal, y'all? Look, we got another banger for y'all today, man. Alright, long-awaited video. I hope you excited. I think I should be excited. I kind of am excited. We about to run this one up, man. My first ever Squidge rugby reaction, okay? Why do teams kick so much in modern rugby? You guys asked for it. Y'all been asking me for like 6 months for this video. It's here, bro. It's here. Did you pull up? Did you pull up or did you not? All them Squidge rugby. Don't let me ever say kicking anything about kicking in any rugby video ever, bro. It'd be 1,000 comments. Squidge rugby. You don't even understand. You don't even know Squidge rugby. Watch the video. Well, I'm here. We about to get into this, man. I ain't really gonna talk too much, man. Unless I feel like I need to, because it's a long video. I ain't trying to have y'all here for an hour, so let's hop into it, man.
This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the Antoine Dupont of website builders.
We all know the legend. In 1823, a schoolboy named William Webb Chicken ruined a round of a sport that wouldn't formally exist for another 40 years by picking up the ball and running with it. Yet, many out there would have you believe there was little point because the game it inspired, during the Rugby on PlayStation, and its weird real-life rip-off we sometimes see on TV, has scarcely any less kicking than whatever sport Bible fan Billy's far too lenient classmates were playing beforehand. Kicking, they'll tell you, is ruining the game. In fact, go back and watch a match from the first World Cup of Webb Ellis Ball in 1987 and you'll find commentators complaining of exactly the same thing. Probably worried when this dog ran onto the pitch because he's got twice as many legs to kick with. The belief that kicking is the most boring part of rugby has existed since before the sport had laws. Why else do you think Webb Ellis would pick up the pigskin in the first place? And yet, it's become almost impossible to win a game of rugby union at professional level without kicking well. It's become the factor that decides test matches above scrum, line-out, tackle completion. Almost every international is won by the team who kicked better. And look back over any modern competition and you'll find a direct correlation in the stats between how often a team bluted the ball.
Most kicks from hand, 2022 season, Six Nations, France kicks a lot. That's one thing I did notice. Rugby Championship, New Zealand, okay, I can see that. Rugby World Cup 2021, England. Champions Cup, Leinster, which is basically Ireland, so, okay.
And how many tries they...
Oh, also, Squidge Rugby. If you happen to see this, bro, please don't take down the video. Don't strike me down, you know what I'm saying? If you need me to, if you need me to take care of something with the video, please reach out to me, bro. Because I actually reached out to Squidge Rugby last year on Twitter to ask him something about the Rugby Championship. And I never got a response. I'm not mad about that. I don't really, you know what I mean? It was specifically about the Rugby Championship. Never got a response. The Rugby Championship passed, you know what I'm saying? But everybody was getting strikes, and I was trying to talk to Squidge about that. So if you do see this, Squid, hit me up on Twitter. I already messaged you. You probably never seen it. In case you have an issue with me reacting to this video or something like that, man. You know what I mean? So just throwing that out there, man.
Scored because if it's impossible to win without kicking, it's even more difficult to play an attacking, open style of rugby in the modern day if your side aren't punting pretty well. Tactical kicking is generally done to create tries, to initiate attacking opportunities, to open up space, gain territory, disorganise a backfield, or create chances to counterattack. And once you get a feel for what teams are trying to do, it truly, genuinely becomes one of the most fascinating and thrilling parts of the game. Learning to read and understand kicking tactics is something that, for me, has only desperately, infinitely deepened my enjoyment and appreciation for the sport 1,000-fold. Because watching two chess grandmasters go at it would be boring as well if you didn't know what those pieces did. So I want to try and explain in a nutshell, in kind of short, why do players kick? How does it slot into an attacking game plan? What are some popular modern tactics to open side up that are used by current teams? And what should you, when watching on TV or from the stands, be looking out for in a kicking exchange to maximise what you're getting out of watching a game? A rugby pitch is 100 metres long, and the core of the game, the idea, the aim, the goal, is to make it all the way from one end of the pitch to the other and prevent the opposition from doing the same. It's like trench warfare if it smelt worse. This is often done 1 metre at a time. Teams really working to steal individual inches so they can eat up that 100. Scrums, mauls, first phase strike plays are all in-game thrills that we love to watch, yet rarely net you more than 10 metres at a time. The sport is built on chasing small margins and maximising your minor gains. And then we have kicking, a skill that, given a fair breeze and an Anthony Boutier, can see you eat up all 100 metres in a single action. Kicking in rugby union is fundamentally overpowered, it's game-breaking. And yet, because the offside rule means you have to be behind the kicker in order to chase it, by using your game-breaking skill, you're presenting the opposition with a chance to do exactly the same. A good kick can single-handedly create the position to win a match, but a bad one can give the opposition the chance to do exactly the same. As such, because
Facts.
every team in professional, especially international rugby, is stacked with exceptional kickers. In order to make any actual gains with the boot, you need to outsmart or outskill your opposition's equivalent kickers. Because what you remember is Antoine Dupont and Damien Penaud scoring miracle tries seemingly out of nowhere, just bullshit like this, it often surprises people to learn that France men kick more of the ball than any other team in the world. But their kicking strategy is what allows the team to play such brilliant, effervescent attacking rugby. Because when they do kick, it's almost always on the front foot. Let's start simple. I think a lot of us, we used to idea this kind of kick was good even before the 50-22 law came in, because the gains are pretty quantifiable. Eleanor Snowsill here kicks from the halfway line and the ball bounces out of play. This lineup means the entire Welsh team can get in Nelson's face when she gets the ball, pressurising her so she hurries her. That's pretty quantifiable. Eleanor Snowsill here kicks from the halfway line and the ball bounces out of play. This lineup means the entire Welsh team can get in Nelson's face when she gets the ball, pressurising her so she hurries her reply, only making it to just outside the 22. Snowsill's nudge has given Wales a net gain of 27 metres. They're 27 metres further up the field than they were when they were last in position just 1 minute earlier. It allows Wales to attack off the line out, which eventually results in the try for Alicia Butchers. It's a tactical calculation. Wales kick so they can pressurise Scotland into giving them the ball in an attacking position.
When I see kicks like this, it makes sense to me. You know what I'm saying? When I see kicks where it's like, okay, we're trying to play position. We landed the good kick. Like, makes perfect sense to me. It's when I start to see, just like they said, the back and forth, the pong, basically playing ping pong with the ball. I'm like, nah, I don't really want to see all that. Just throwing out a quick opinion. Let's continue.
But of course you don't need the line out. Damien Willemse here sticks it in behind Tom Wright and he's forced to play it. Little Piss Boy clears and Willemse has officially made a 41 metre net gain. Or an even cleaner example,
Fair.
also from the Springboks here, Villiers Leroux slaps the ball into the 22 and it bounces in play low, making it a nightmare for Elliot Daly to deal with. From a Pimpy somehow more in Daly's face than his own beard, he can only bung it a small distance, a 32 metre net gain from the Springboks, from which they deploy the move and win the decisive penalty.
The move.
And after that, you know, a World Cup. They win a World Cup off this. A lot of modern kicking strategy is about manipulating how the opposition will kick it back. This is a game-breaking skill in the sport, remember,
Okay.
and one
Okay.
bad kick can grant your side the chance to win a game. So how do you manoeuvre the other team into a situation where they gift that chance to you, where they give it back to you? Finn Russell gives us a sublime example right here. This is a sentence I'll be saying again. Whilst this kick might not look like much and Padavani can call a mark, it's a really tricky situation for him to reply from. The angle is terrible. A kick out on the full here means he makes it just beyond the 22 likely, making it a 30-odd metre net gain for Scotland. Padavani instead keeps it in field. Because he doesn't chase his own kick to focus on distance, flanker Pettinelli fills in and gets his positioning wrong, something Stuart Hogg identifies, and Scotland break away down his wing. Ali Price taking it into the 22 before the team recycle, and Sam Johnson scores in the far corner. Forget a net gain here, right? This kick by Finn Russell was worth 5 points. It forced Italy into a tricky situation and they gave Scotland a chance to attack against a misaligned defence. Or here, Bowden Barrett slaps it over Matt Hansen.
Yeah, okay, but look, Finn, in that situation, Finn Russell has no idea how the dude's gonna kick it or if he's gonna mark it. It's just he's not kicking it like, oh yeah, he's gonna mark it and then kick it back and then Stuart Hall's gonna run it back. So it's kind of like, yeah, that kick ended up working out, but the intentions were not, oh, this is gonna happen, so this is gonna, and I'm gonna get 5 points. Because it was almost like that's how he made it sound, kind of.
captain's head and instantly jogs across the pitch because he's anticipating him hitting it down the tram lines. Because once the chase catches up with him, he won't have time to aim for anything else. Bowden is in perfect position to regather and launch a counter-attack. And do you know what else Bowden decided he could launch alongside it? A website. And so he went to Squarespace. Long gone might be the days of...
Yeah, that was good. That was really good. you almost got me there. That was good. I
the
see
link in
you.
the description and use the offer most planned
Sharp.
in advance by the other team. Reece Priestland gives us a textbook example here. He gets it over Rodri Williams' shoulder, meaning he backtracks onto the ball. And because no other Dragons are around, Cardiff can afford to let Priestland chase alone. Under pressure, Williams aims towards the touchline, the safest place, but it's also where Cardiff have purposely placed players, knowing the Dragons have literally no one to chase it except Williams himself. Adams beats his man and can get the offload, and whilst the final pass to Faletau does go forward, it still demonstrates just how a brilliant kick like Priestland's can open up a defence, decimating the kick chase line and giving you infinite options on the counter-attack. This is the core of what France want to do. Here, Italy will always get the ball first, but they're left in an impossible situation. Scrum half Varney has to pounce on it, leaving Italy under so much pressure that fly half Paolo Garbisi comes in to attempt the box kick himself because they're just under enormous pressure. He can't find touch, and it presents France with a chance to attack against a disjointed Italian line who were all piled into that last breakdown. They panic and give away a penalty, which France kick to take a lead that they never relinquished again in the game. Traditionally, we think of attacking teams as only kicking once they run out of ideas or the defence gets totally on top. The big difference with the best attacking teams in the world right now, such as France, the Red Roses or Harlequins, is that they primarily welly it when they're going forward, whilst they still have options. If a defence has holes, the space in the backfield is going to be astronomical because wingers will normally come up to plug those gaps in the main line. Even though you may surrender the ball temporarily, you remain in control of the game because if you can force them to kick it back, the opportunity to counter-attack become enormous. This is what we'd call kicking on the front foot. There's a great example of the theory here. Despite a good first-up tackle from Barrett, Ireland go back to the blind side repeatedly, making plenty of meters, bringing the winger up flat. So, Jumbo Pig Sexiam drops it on the boot. Winger drawn up by the face's blind side is deliberately infield in a position where chasers Lowe and Henshaw are never realistically going to get to before either Barrett bro here, but they'll be under such enormous pressure, fearing a scrum 5 or a scramble into touch, surrendering possession right by the try line. The Barrett psychic link allows Bowden to do about as well as humanly possible, but because Ireland kicked on the front foot, New Zealand are now kicking in panic. There's no chase set except for the two Barretts. It allows Keenan and Sex Polarity to link up on the short side, having anticipated this is what's going to happen, and if Tuanga here doesn't commit an absolutely cynical penalty, it's a Henshaw fire try, all opened up by a great kick forcing the All Blacks to panic. We constantly see teams when oppositions get a slow ball drop players out of the line last second so they can set to cover the kick. Because Sexton hits it whilst Ireland are still going forward, the Kiwi defence is set to defend an attacking ball and it catches them by surprise, meaning the follow-up kick has no chase and hence the attack comes and almost should have resulted in a try, easily could have been a penalty try. That's what most modern sides are looking to create with their kicking game. A defence less organised than ever. It's why this kind of kick is so popular. Players are frequently looking to just make the ball bounce, as Finn Russell does here, because it gives your team so much time to get up in the opposition's face and apply pressure. You just want to make the ball bounce on grass as much as possible. Clearing to touch from this midfield position becomes so much harder. The sidelines so far away. Most of the time, the effort expended on the kick will be so great that getting out of play grants the side a huge net gain. So this normally leaves them with two likely options. The fullback tries to run it, like this awkward bounce by Finn Russell once again prompts Doolan to do, which results in him getting isolated and gift wrapping Jamie Ritchie a turnover penalty, or the opposition player just kicks it back blindly, badly, presenting that counter-attack chance. But the chances to attack aren't only on the counter. If we return to Eleanor Snowsill dropping that brilliant kick behind Scotland on Wales' first passage of possession in that match in that World Cup, the next time Cymru are around the halfway line, Scotland drop both wingers out of the main defensive line to cover the kick, expecting Snowsill to do that, so she runs it instead. She's able to slip Meg Webb through a hole created by left winger Gaffney being late into position because she was back covering the kick. She dropped out of line. Scotland's entire defensive shape weakened because of how well Wales kicked in the first few minutes of the game. This was a key component of how Harlequins won the Premiership season before last. This is a remarkable try with some unreal handling, running, passing, finished by Andre Esterhazy. It's an absolutely brilliant try. You know, everyone kind of remembers it who watched that final. It's one of the defining images of Harlequins that season. But if we rewind right back to here, you've got to ask yourself, why is Johnny Hill a second row covering this wing alone? alone covering the wing. It's because in the 90 seconds preceding the score, Marcus Smith gives us an absolute masterclass of tactical kicking. This, onto the outside the boot, bounces behind now. The fullback regathers and clears, but in chasing his straight line kick, ends up covering the wing, meaning Joe Simmons' MBE slots into fullback. Smith instantly spots more space and tries to prod it over O'Flaherty's head, and whilst things don't go according to plan, Exeter kick it back, and not long after, he gets to have another go. Because the ball came his way, Nowell has had to stay on the wing, so Smith pins it between O'Flaherty and Simmons' OBE, and by the time the winger clears it, it's the most hurried kick against a desperately misaligned defence. Liner and Green make great headway, but Smith's kicking game has not only kept Sir Joseph of Simmons in the backfield, but Nowell has now started to jog back into the 15 position. Both wingers are here, having chased the kick, so nobody is covering him behind. So Smith figures this is just the moment to pull the trigger. There's no winger in position. Murley, Burns, Johnny Hill and Exeter are left scrambling. Whilst Lord Simmons does get marched into ground, forget misaligned defence, there's no defence left to stop the South African bowling ball from scoring in the corner. People often use the term kicking tennis as an insult, like tennis isn't a more popular sport than rugby anyway, but it really does describe what we saw perfectly. A rally where Smith...
Okay. Like, it makes sense. It makes sense. But there's a lot of times where it doesn't make sense either. You know, like, it's kind of one of those, this whole kicking thing is just one of those things where sometimes it's going to work for you, sometimes it's not going to work for you. You know what I mean? That's just how I see it. Personally, if you're asking me, when teams rely too much on the kick, in my opinion, I don't necessarily like that. That's all I ever really said. Some kicks make more sense to me than others. Like, I really like the kicks where you're on the attack, you kick it, your guy from you kicking it towards the corner, your guy off the wing is pulling up, running up, trying to going on the chase, either gets the ball or doesn't and gets the try. I love that. I love to see that. You guys know how excited I get when I see a nice little kick and the dude running, gets the ball, like, okay, let's go. I like that. But the whole back and forth kicking it just because you trying to hope and pray that whether you're kicking it away in hopes that they kick it back and then you get a good easy run, or you kicking it away in hopes that your guys going on the defense or on the attack are able to kind of fluster them up so that way it opens up more opportunities, or just to get a little bit of field advantage, is cool. But when it's done excessively and it's just back and forth ball and both teams are just trying to find an opening, to me, I don't necessarily like that. Y'all might like it. Half of y'all might like it, and the other half of y'all might hate it. But it is what it is. Like, Steph Curry's got every single person in the NBA, all they do is shoot threes. Ain't nobody yamming like Vince Carter no more. I like the Vince Carter days. You know what I'm saying? I like the Vince Carter, Kobe Bryant, Tracy McGrady, boom! You know what I'm saying? Shaq. Big dogs. Going crazy. Now everybody too pretty want to shoot 3-pointers from the half-court line, which is cool too. But I like those other days. There's cats that like the 90s days when basketball was super physical. 80s and the 90s. It's just different. I don't necessarily like the whole finesse kicking stuff, but it's cool. I get why people do it. And I hope you guys can understand where I'm coming from. Because y'all just assume I just think it's just the worst thing in the world, and it's not. Sometimes I get it and I understand it, but that don't mean I gotta necessarily like it. Like, you know what I mean? I've never really watched soccer or football in my life, you feel me? Like, but I played American football and I've watched it. And I played with guys who was on my team, played rugby on the side of playing football. That's the only reason I even knew about rugby as good as I did. So, me, I want to see dudes running the ball, good passes, going up and down the field, breaking tackles, hard hits. That's what I want to see. If I wanted to watch soccer, I watch soccer. Dudes kicking it with the feet and shit, all the whole back and forth. You know what I mean? So, that's where I come from with it, and I hope you guys understand. But I'm 100%, 1,000% definitely getting a lot of insight from watching Squidge's video, man. 100%. If you one of the guys that don't necessarily like the kicks either, this is definitely giving me a lot of insight. I'm respecting it more, but I still don't necessarily Want to see people kicking it back and forth, doing the kick tennis, whatever, the pong. I don't even want to see that.
Smith is hitting it to either corner beautifully, and Exeter just clearing it back onto Quinn's side of the net. Smith just waiting for the moment to take advantage and do the big shot where you really slam the Wii remote down and it rams it right back into the wall. I've played a lot of Wii tennis circa 2006. It's really seared into my brain. This is what teams are looking to achieve in bouts of kick tennis. Often the assumption is that you're trying to force an error from the opposition or avoid making one yourself, but it's often just a chance to get totally on top of your opponent, to dominate them in a game. Lennicket out here slaps it long so it bounces past Josh Adams, and Australia begin to kick continually towards the same corner, trying to condense the Welsh cover down here into this zone. Because Wales's kick strategy has the kicker chase and somebody else slide back to cover, Australia targeting the same zone over and over again eventually leaves Hardy really struggling to get back, and then he becomes the only guy chasing his kick because they've just done it over and over again. So Tom Wright has a crack at this corner knowing he's only got Hardy to beat. Jack Morgan just about gets there in time to make the tackle, but the repeated kicking has pulled so many Welsh players into the backfield and pulled them so out of shape, focused them so much on this far touchline, that they have
gonna go
an
down.
enormous overlap. The break is made, and then despite a scrag tackle from one of Wales's 800 fullbacks, they quickly get it wide, and Australia score the try that costs Wayne Pivac his job. It's akin to the tactic in tennis where you constantly hit it at one corner so the opponent scrambles there, and eventually...
Literally. That's literally it. It's literally the same thing. So how can you even be mad they call it kick tennis if you literally just use tennis to describe how they're kicking? You just pulled them
for that delicious double bounce. However, in both of those examples, Harlequins and Australia are always on top. Quins and the Wallabies initiate the duel, and Smith and the assorted Australian kickers slaughter Exeter and Wales, who are always on the back foot. Where things get more intriguing, perhaps, is when both sides are kicking equally well, trying to seize that precious territory and, more importantly, momentum that could decide the game. Italy here are deep in their own half, and genuinely class 10 Tommaso Allen spots the Aussie backfield is only defending the two flanks, so Jock Campbell has to cover loads of ground to get to the ball in the middle. But he also has loads of time to weigh up a reply. So
I got plenty of time.
Actually similar, they're doing the same thing, but being a nippy little bugger, Capelwutso covers it with ease, and Allen adjusts tact. He aims for the wing in the hope Lolaseo would just put the ball out and give Italy a net gain, but instead Noah goes, nah,
right up to the wing,
and tries to invite Italy to concede and put the ball out to give Australia a net gain. But with their 10 chasing, Allen fires it long and forces Nwanguito Nase to turn, meaning he spins after catching it and has less time, so he just goes fair dinkum and puts it into touch. Except he's made a shit ton of ground with this kick. It's a really good one. The lineup would basically be in line where Allen first kicked it, so Italy decide they aren't happy with this and go quickly. And Varney puts in the best kick of the lot. He slaps it over Campbell's head and the ball sits up and stops bouncing just before it goes dead. Australia could concede the goal line dropout, which, based on how they usually go at the minute, would likely give Italy possession just outside the 22, or they can try and play it. They can risk this. Campbell flicks it on, and the harriedness combined with Lamoureux's tireless work means Lolaseo thinks he's under more pressure than he is and puts it out inside the 22. This was an incredibly level kicking exchange until Varney turned it on its head and gave his team ultimately a 50-metre net gain, and the position from which less than a minute later Ange Capelwutso, the slippery bugger himself, can cross for the ultimately decisive winning try. All from one decisive winning chess move in a kicking duel Italy initiated with confidence. And this is where it all feeds back.
Again, let me know if I'm tripping, bro. I'm not here to like downplay Squidge Rugby, because I understand and know that he is way more smarter than me when it comes to understanding, knowing the sport of rugby, analyzing it, and dissecting it. So don't come at me with the comments saying I'm like that, because I already know there's going to be some. But what I'm trying to say is, in this situation, is that I feel like he's giving way too much like IQ points to some of the players as far as like them knowing what's gonna happen. They don't know what's gonna happen. They're just hoping it works out the best for them. And that's kind of where I'm just I don't know. I just feel like he's giving them way too much on the master class scale. It's like they're trying to figure something out. And if it works out for them, it makes them look super smart in that situation. If it doesn't, then it makes the other team or look super smart or them look like they made a mistake. Some kicks are good, some kicks are bad.
to France, because Les Bleus combine all the ideas I've talked about into one kind of massive mega tactic. Romain Ntamack is a magician with the ball in hand, but he's also probably the best player in the world at identifying when to kick and identifying what kind of kick to do. It's his real USP. He's incredible at it. And he's joined in the side by Antoine Bloody Dupont and whichever of their big boot former Pro Day fullbacks they want that week. In fact, Fabien Gautier's primary
Ntamack and Ramos are good kickers, though. I'll give them that. I definitely give them that.
bit of selection criteria for a 15 is how good are you in kick tennis situations, because this is what decides most of their games. The thing that sets Gautier's team apart is their patience. France will engage you in a rally of 5, 6, sometimes as many as 11 or 12 kicks, just waiting for your defence to snap, your forwards to get tired of chasing, or your winger to be over-optimistic and leave space open for 50-22. This is an absolutely textbook example from last year's Six Nations. Jaminet kicks long just behind where Biggar was stood, knowing he'll cover, but he'll have to turn first and not get much time to weigh up his response. Sure enough, seeing France have the entire field covered, Biggar aims for grass, wanting to make the ball bounce. He doesn't have much option. Ntamack, on the other hand, has loads of time and quite a few options. He can probably make it past halfway at 50-metre net gain if he runs, but France stay patient. Williams anticipates the kick and hits it back, but he chases it alone. There's nobody around him. Davis has to rush up to catch him, and it allows Jaminet to skate on the outside and offload. France keep the ball alive, working it to the far side, manipulating the Welsh defence nicely, and once they break back the other way, Wales haven't reset at all. Jaminet bursts down the tram line and delivers the try-scoring pass to Gelange, the only try of the game, all created by some incredibly smart kicking.
Somebody who really watches my videos, man, how many times in the Six Nations did I get upset at teams like Wales? I want to say it was Wales at least once, and I want to say Scotland at least once as well, where I said, look, why are y'all kicking back to Italy? I'm sorry, France. I said, why are y'all kicking back to France? They gonna play this game on y'all and they gonna score on y'all. Why are y'all playing this game with them? Don't do that. They're trying to play a game with y'all. I literally said this, man. Both 2 times with Wales and with Italy. I was like, why are y'all doing this, bro? You're not gonna get nothing out of it. If you a real one and you watch my Six Nations reaction, you put in the comments you remember me saying this.
Opening up so much space. The entire time, Wales are kicking on the back foot. They're only responding to what France are doing with no proper chase set. However, perhaps the better example of just how good France's kicking game is comes from the kickoff. Dupont clears, and by all accounts, Wales are the team initiating here. They're coming forward onto the ball. They're the guys looking to advance rather than simply escape the situation. But from the moment Ntamack beats Williams to the ball, France are the only team in town. After one quick phase, Jaminet attempts to bang it down the middle, but Biggar covers it superbly. And at this point, it's still pretty even, until Ntamack puts in this perler. Not dissimilar to Varney against Australia. Liam Williams can only get up to the edge of the 22, and from his reply, Dupont can repeat Ntamack's trick. With Biggar and Williams chasing their own kick, it's just the 2 wingers watching, and the kick splits them. Josh Adams recovers, turns, but by the time Frenchman are on his face, he's barely at the 15-metre line with a terrible angle to kick from. It's taken them 4 strikes, but France have made a 52-metre net gain from their kicking display. That's more than half the pitch. You're probably looking at a good 40 phases of carries to make that ground, and that's even with Adams putting in a pretty decent final kick. However, kicking on the front foot has many other abuses. South Africa's blue-to-ball game isn't about opening up space or even gaining territory, it's about momentum. By kicking whilst going forwards on their own terms, they're able to keep forcing the other team backwards. The other team's always working towards their own try line. Each and every kick gives you 3 chances to attack the opposition. One is in the air, hanging a kick high in order to get a player under it and recover the ball. This also disaligns the defence. They're usually scrambling into position when one is recovered. The next 2, however, are good.
I do also like the high kicks too. I do really like high kicks because there's more, I don't know. There's just more of a point to it. Like, oh, he's kicking it super high. Brandon going for the catch, going for the Randy Moss. You know, they're going for the Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, Odell Beckham Jr. catch. You know what I mean? It makes more sense. And it's like an attack versus let me see, you know, let me see how they can fuck up so I can take advantage of it. It's like, nah, I like the attack.
Gloriously ugly. When South Africa kick, They often do it wanting to defend. Because Nineveh was confident they'd built the best defence in the game, they backwards engineered the entire rest of their game around it. The Springboks kick whilst they're still going forwards, but the main focus is the phases immediately afterwards. It's easier for them to set up their defence whilst Faf de Klerk is preparing to hang a kick than it is for the other side to work out how their attack is going to align, whilst still waiting for that kick to be put in. And this gives the Boks an enormous advantage. It's an extremely common sight. South Africa kick the ball, then smash the other side backwards several phases in a row because their D was primed to get on top before they kicked it. And invariably, it leads to the other side making a mistake or coughing at the ball or just kicking it back once again, usually giving South Africa a lovely net gain. We love a net gain here. This was a World Cup winning strategy. But the third approach, however, is one I suspect incoming England coach Steve Borthwick may adopt for the side because it was his Premiership winning strategy. Because the third way you can attack an opponent is to target the breakdown immediately after the kick is taken in. This was Leicester Tigers' primary attacking strategy last season, where South Africa kicked shallow so their winger can get under it. Tigers wanted to place it slightly longer, ideally at the exact apex where the winger can reach in sprint time. No interest in actually regathering it, they just want to leather their opponent into the turf. Sometimes this has the bonus effect of them shitting the bed and dropping it. Sometimes it can force the chaser back significant yardage, but it could also present turnover chances. Whilst the winger heads it up, Tigers would usually use the likes of Tommy Reffel or Julio Montoya as a secondary wave, allowing them to get in over the ball the moment the tackle was made. They'd be there with the chaser always set in position. It's a tactic we know England can deploy because the Lions used it against the Springboks as well. This kick by Ali Price is absolutely brilliant. It hangs in the air an age, meaning a huge shot can go in, which grants a forward momentum that makes Tom Curry utterly unshiftable. You can't clear him out here. It's just brilliant. This all works because it's easier, if you're coming onto the ball and you're being hit, for the now defending player to enter the breakdown heading in a straight line chasing the kick than it is for the retreating players on the side receiving the ball to get back.
Man, Vander Merwe got to switch jerseys, man.
Work round and get in position to clear out. And sometimes it has a knock-on effect as well. This is a phenomenal kick by Kieran Hardy, incredibly high and gives Reece Sammet loads of time to get after it, and it bobbles in the air at the end, making it really hard for Van der Merwe to take. He ends up catching it going backwards, having had to adjust at the last second, allowing Beard and Tipperick to both challenge for the ball. As such, 4 Scots go in to secure this particular breakdown, meaning there's a dearth of options available the following phase, meaning Wales can attack them on that next phase and win the turnover. It's funny focusing on the breakdown here because 2 decades ago, the ruck was an area that no fan found interesting. It was a baffling necessity never talked about. And then came Richie McCaw, came George Smith and David Pocock and Michael Hooper, came Sam Warburton, and a legion of sevens and breakdown specialists who changed the game by dominating that area. TV coverage started to discuss rucks differently, championing the jackal and putting it in terms the average fan who only watches the Six Nations every year can appreciate and enjoy. Until we got to the point now where a jackal turnover, a holding on penalty in your own 22 is the second biggest cheer at a rugby match to a try. That's where I'd like to think we're heading with kicking. At test level, very little kicking is aimless, and if it is, it's almost always because it was prompted by the other side. Almost every international is decided by who kicked best, and today I've barely scratched the surface for modern tactics and what teams are trying to achieve with these kicking strategies. It's an area that moves so quickly and a topic that will almost certainly decide the 2023 Rugby World Cup. William Webb-Chicken might have picked up the ball and ran with it, but he didn't.
See, the idea of kicking being a deciding factor in who wins a World Cup to me does not sound appealing. I'm sorry, it doesn't. Like, I want to know who's cracking fools, who's running 4-2 up the field, stepping on cats. You know what I mean? Making cats look crazy out here. Who was, you know what I mean? I ain't trying to hear about who kicked the best. Who placed the ball best when they kick? Like, I don't give a fuck, bro. Man, I know there's going to be some mad people in the comments, man. I'm sorry.
Really create rugby into one of his schoolmates, dropped it back on the boot.
Squid's rugby, so why do teams kick so much in modern rugby? Hey, man, it's cool. You know what I'm saying? It's cool. Kicking's cool. You know, make plays, good, positioning and stuff. It's cool, I definitely learned a lot about it in this video. But, still not still not really trying to see no kick tennis going on. I'm just being honest, bro. I'm just really not trying to see kick tennis like that. Keep it a buck with you. But y'all let me know how you guys feel about it and the kickers and all this stuff. You know what I mean? Let me know how you feel about it. And get at me in the comments. Hit that like button, subscribe, all that good stuff, man. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Remember to keep it real. Real's rare. Real always reaches everyone. See y'all next time. Peace.